Pierce Brosnan stays one of the maximum well-known spies inside the world. That's a funny story of route. But we do love him for reviving the traditional 7 James Bond movie collection, thanks to his breathtaking portrayal of the first-rate stylish secret agent Dot. And just like the enigmatic Bond individual, Pierce's real lifestyles has components of it that would completely shock you and many of his enthusiasts into oblivion. Let's take a look at what untold truths lie hidden within the shadows of the actor's spotlight. Starting from his demanding early life, many fans don't know that Pierce was the son of a carpenter. Unfortunately, his woodworker father deserted him and his mom when he changed into only a toddler. And as if that wasn't sufficient trauma, Pierce's mom decided to leave him too. She moved to London to turn out to be a nurse, while Pierce became simply 4 years old. So he was left with his grandparents. This too could quickly turn into a terrible nightmare, as Pierce misplaced both grandparents. Surprisingly, this failed to reason his dad or mom to go back and take him with them. So following the grandparents' passing, he needed to live with an aunt, after which an uncle until he moved to a boarding home. In his own words, I turned into sent to live with a woman named Eileen, who had an area in a poor part of Metropolis. She had her own children, and she additionally had lodgers. She agreed to take me in, and I moved upstairs with the lodgers, all grown men with jobs. One worked inside the mill, one labored in a neighborhood bank. Pierce goes on to describe his residing conditions in great detail. Then there was another bed, for whoever got here in journeying. There become this long room, and there have been those iron beds with antique mattresses on them. This is in which the 3 lodgers have been. At the very quit of the room, there has been my little mattress, with a curtain around it with newspapers pinned on it, so the mild would not shine in while the guys came domestic. At this point, he described his childhood as fairly solitary, and you possibly trust this. Given the absence of each of his dad and mom, he commented about it as soon as pronouncing, "It sounds quite bleak, all of this. However, that's what it became. No surprise I'm an actor, but you discover ways to be happy within all of that. You discover ways to create your personal happiness, and you learn to forgive, you learn to upward push above it, and also you learn to view humans with an extraordinary form of clarity, due to the fact they've hurt you, and because there was nobody there, so that it will go to. They're turned into no longer this symbol, the father figure or the mom, so you learn to discover your personal independence and continue to exist. If you failed to understand, you acted as if you did recognize." By pointing out that his father was unknown to him, Pierce believed that his father's absence didn't best affect him as an infant. However, his mother, too, according to the actor, to be Irish Catholic inside the 1950 Essen feature, a wedding which became absent, a father who became absent, the mom and the spouse suffered substantially, so he didn't blame her for leaving. He brought, "Leaving once I became a toddler, mother changed into a brave woman. She made the audacious selection to go away and paintings as a nurse in England, basically hoping for a better lifestyles for me and her. Once or 2 times a 12 months my mom might go to. That better existence sooner or later got here 6 years after his mom left him." By the time Pierce was coming into his teenage years, his mother had gotten married to her new husband, William Carmichael, and moved into his long Niddry house in Scotland. She then brought Pierce to visit her, making him leave Ireland for the first actual time in his younger life. Around this time, Pierce could stumble upon the call James Bond for the primary time, thanks to his stepfather, Carmichael, who took him to see the Bond film Goldfinger. Pierce said, "In Ireland, I were added up on a weight loss program of antique Mother Riley and Norman Wisdom films, which would now not translate to readers in America. However, they're black and white comedies made here. In the summer season of '64, my mother and Bill, my stepfather, took me to the movies, and I saw Goldfinger. Now pay attention to how he felt watching the film. And right here I sat on this cinema on Putney High Street with this spectacle, this magical event taking region before my eyes referred to as James Bond. The song, the women, the shimmering silhouettes of nakedness, and this remarkable girl lying at the mattress. 4 weeks before, I have been in Ireland in a tiny city, and here I become inside the extremely good city, London. Now, perhaps the seed turned into sown there, I don't know. However, James Bond was very cool. I began to think about London and thoughts of travel. The night before, reading his books made me think about reading his books again, and it turned into a wonderful revel for the younger boy who had no concept what the destiny held for him. Pierce's mom and stepdad decided to move the circle of relatives from Scotland to London and helped him start college there. But it wasn't all rosy. Young Pierce began getting bullied in his new school. Some human beings in his college didn't even trouble to understand his call, sincerely calling him Irish. He even commented, "The British have a tremendous way of making you sense that way," and I skilled a profound feel of alienation. At the age of 16, Pierce chose to end up a painter after losing out of faculty, so he enrolled at St. Martin's School of Art in London to have a look at industrial illustration. However, a danger assembly would in the end change his career choice, and also you almost wouldn't accept as true with your ears. While attending a rehearsal for a workshop on the Oval House, Pierce came throughout a fire eater coaching humans how to eat hearth. And for a few purpose, he determined to prevent and study. Why? Hear his reasoning. There become a big institution of people in there, but I observed that there were ladies and they had their tops off. So I notioned I'd join in. This guy turned into a street performer, and he become teaching us how to place the flames across the chest, and the younger women needed to take their bras off. There had been no bras then besides, so I went to the workshop and I learned a way to fire kunsun, a pretty neat motive to emerge as a hearth-eater, proper, but our beloved actor stuck with it to the seas and have become a professional fire-eater, and potential that is nonetheless indexed in his CV. The enterprise of hearthening, ingesting, seemingly lit the flame of passion inside him. Unknown to him, his journeying into acting changed into starting to take shape. As a trainee commercial artist running at a bit studio in Putney, South London, he turned into speaking to a colleague within the photographic department and that they had been talking about films. Pierce had fallen in love with movies a long time in the past, but he had no actual desires of being an actor. This colleague he turned in to speak me to, however, belonged to a theater organization, and he invited Pierce to join. After considering it for some time, and simply having nothing else to occupy his time, he determined to take his co-workers' provide and went down to the business enterprise one night time. He said about being there for the primary time, I turned into petrified. I have been requested to be in college plays, but continually declined. I simply had no desire to be in performs. But here I located myself on this workshop, a gathering instead darkish studio, with approximately 30 different human beings doing voice and motion physical games, which had been absolutely alien to me, however so exhilarating. There became no censorship or disgrace allocated to one, and you can be anything you wanted to be. From that first day, he commenced to expose up twice a week. He then switched it to 3 instances a week. Soon enough, he started going there each night after paintings. Eventually, Pierce turned into so satisfied with the theater that he gave up the job in industrial art and joined some humans to form a theater employer called the Oval House Theater Company. According to him, he became the youngest member, operating with individuals who have been actors, instructors, musicians, and writers. As a suffering young man who had been on his very own for a long time, he selected to paintings as a waiter. During the day, he wiped clean homes and worked in a bottling manufacturing facility simply to complement his income. These were the available jobs he ought to do, whether in the morning or the late evening. It failed to rely to him. He had decided to pursue appearing, and not anything was going to forestall him. He said regarding this selection, "I went to the drama middle in Chalk Farm when I determined that I wanted to be an actor, and the Oval House had stimulated me and stuffed me with a passion and a need. I had no schooling, and I wasn't blessed within the theater and the sector of literature. At that factor, I was just an amazing exhibitionist in street theater." He spent the subsequent 3 years taking performing training at the drama middle. After school, the young graduate could not get an appearing gig without delay, so he commenced working as an acting assistant stage supervisor on the York Theatre Royal. But it wasn't long before his performing debut got Here Calling. His first movie turned into The Long Good Friday, in which he acted as an IRA terrorist. Not that Pierce changed into interested by wasting any time whilst got here terrorist, due to the fact inside 6 months he became decided on by way of the playwright Tennessee Williams to play the position of McCabe within the British Ultimate of the Red Devil battery sign. Pierce's overall performance changed into so true that William dispatched a telegram to him, declaring only, "Thank God for you, my pricey boy." Pierce had taken London via Hurricane with just his 2D film, yet he became nonetheless getting brief appearances in films. However, as his reputation grew, he were given a few television performances below his belt. He quickly have become a rising television celebrity in the U.S. Whilst he got the leading position in the famous miniseries Manions of America, that achievement were given him every other role in BBC's 9-element miniseries Nancy Astor. His contribution to this miniseries later earned him a Golden Globe Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor. But, earlier than the awards got here pouring in, Pierce nevertheless had his work cut out for him. Lucky for him, he had his spouse to help him, Cassandra Harris. He met the Australian actress via David Harris, the nephew of Richard Harris. Shortly after leaving drama school, Cassandra herself had become already a divorcee, with children from her prior marriage, Charlotte and Chris. Pierce turned into so enthralled via her that upon meeting her he stated, "What a stunning-looking lady." He later delivered, "I did not think about wooing her or trying to woo her. I simply wanted to experience her splendor and who she became." The couple eventually began courting and bought a house together in Wimbledon when they were given married. Pierce adopted his new spouse's youngsters, and it wasn't lengthy earlier than the family welcomed Sean, Cassandra, and Pierce's baby together. Now a father, Pierce quickly realized how enormously organized the U.S. changed into to receive him, so he decided to transport to Southern California with his wife. The couple selected to take their chance on making it massive in Hollywood, even borrowing cash from the bank to ease their relocation. On attending to the U.S. Pierce spent the next 2 weeks happening auditions. Fortunately for him and his own family, it turned into the first actual audition he did that clicked. He had gotten picked as the lead position within the NBC romantic comedy Detective Collection. Remington Steele, doing the series, modified the financial situation of Pierce's own family. He and Cassandra were suffering for a while, but straight away after he landed this gig, the cash issues were looked after. Additionally, all through this Remington Steele years, the display made a brief visit to Ireland, and Pierce had a sudden visitor, Tom Brosnan. The daddy he had never acknowledged all of a sudden showed up. Pierce related what came about. "Our journey to Ireland generated plenty of press, and I suspected my father would possibly surface. And he did.